Well, hello everyone. My name is Rick Farron, and welcome into the Six Screen Sunday program. We had some issues at first. We had to abort the last program, Anne Marie's program. Nobody could hear us on the YouTube and on the YouTube stream and Facebook stream, but we're back now, and hopefully people can hear us on YouTube now. If not, we know there's a problem with our StreamYard platform. But anyways, we got a great program coming up, a couple of great programs coming up today on Six Screens. So by all means, stay with us, and we'll see if the programs are being able to be heard by the audience out on YouTube. So we'll know here very shortly. But I'm glad that you're with us. We do have a number of people coming in on our telephone line and coming in on Facebook and YouTube. So we'll see if we get people that can hear us okay, waiting patiently. Okay, Maverick working perfectly. Okay, so thank you, Maverick. So evidently the sound is good. We're back. Sound is good. I'm not sure what happened, but anyways, I'm glad to be back with us here on the Six Screens Telenetwork once again. We usually don't have the issues with StreamYard or YouTube, but you know those guys too. They every once in a while they got to take an update, shut the system down for a while. And I'm thinking that Sunday afternoon's a good time to do it. Of course, they're both well, I believe they're both American companies. I know Google is, and StreamYard. I'm not sure if they're from UK or not, but Sunday is an excellent time to be able to update their equipment because I mean business is not really open for the most part, and so consequently a lot of people really aren't using their services. So that's what they would do. So I think that's what happened. I believe YouTube or well, actually it was more than likely StreamYard because we also had the same problems going on in Facebook. But anyways, we do the news every Saturday night, every other Sunday, and today is the other Sunday. So we can do the news here. And we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in the Watchtower. And first of all, what I'll tell you is going on has to do with a woman that I met uh, in a pet shop. I mentioned this to you last week, but I'll bring it up once again. I'm in the sign business, as you guys all know, and I met a girl that was the manager of a pet shop that I was doing some business with, and her name was Jenna. And this week, when I was in there, and I've been there a few times, but she says, "Well, Mr. Farron," she called me Mr. Farron. She says, "Mr. Farron," she said, "do you still go to the Kingdom Hall?" And I said to her, I said, "Well, I don't go to the Kingdom Hall anymore." I said, "Did you know me at the hall?" She says, "Oh, yeah." She says, "I'm Jenna. And you remember me? I used to go to the same Kingdom Hall you did in Wilmington, Massachusetts." I says, "Wow." I said, "Let me take a look." And I looked at her face. I can remember you. And she used to be friends with my two daughters who were pioneers. And Jenna said, "Well, you left the Watchtower?" I said, "Yes, I left it, Jenna. I left it because there's a lot of problems going on in that organization." And she says, "Rick," she says, "there was one family." And this is what I wanted to share with you folks today. And I did it last night, but for those that didn't hear it, uh, we know Jehovah's Witnesses claim to be the happiest people on the planet, right? That's what their claim is. And but that's it falls really short of that. And what Jenna mentioned to me, she says, "Rick," she says, "that one family, I'm not going to mention their name, but she said there's one family in the hall, they had two suicides. The grandson just committed suicide. They were staunch witnesses. The mother was, the father wasn't a witness anymore, but the mother had her grandson just commit suicide. And also, that same mother had a son about 30 years ago commit suicide. So there was two suicides in that particular family going to the Kingdom Hall. But it doesn't stop there. That same woman, she had another son who was an elder, and the elder was disfellowshipped. And the elder, I was away for a while, but when I came home, I was out in Ohio, in Chicago. When I came home, this is 11 years ago, there was a note on my door, and it said, "This is such and such, and I no longer am one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And Rick, you're the only apostate I know in the whole area. So I wanted to leave this note and let you know that I'd like to talk with you. And right now I'm homeless. I was going to commit suicide. I was going to jump off the Mystic Tobin Bridge here in Boston. So, there's an attempted suicide in the same family. So, what I'm saying here, folks, what I'm trying to at least get out and say is the fact that, Jehovah's Witnesses are not the happiest people on the planet. They can talk about it, they can say it, but it's not a fact. As a matter of fact, even the mother, from what I've been told, and it's pretty factual here, also was involved pretty heavily with alcoholism. At least she drank a lot of wine. So, anyways, I wanted to get right off and share that story as I did last night because it got me thinking. It really did. It got me thinking how easy it is to believe anything. And even if you listened to our program last night with Barbara Anderson and Kerry Kay, they had a good program. It really was pretty good, and they talked about how people can believe what they want to believe. It doesn't necessarily even have to be factual, but once they get it embedded into their head, it's very hard to disbelieve it. And last night on the program, I showed. Well, in fact, I can put it up right now. Just give me a second. Let me go back over here, get back into the StreamYard stream. I'm going to show you this. I think it's very important you see this because they brought this up last night on the 6 screens, and it has to do with a newspaper. And it really, I thought there was always something fishy about these newspapers they used to sell at the conventions. I'm going to put it up here so you can see it. All right, that's the newspaper right there. And that was a convention. I believe it was at Yankee Stadium. I think it was back in 1969. I was there, but I can kind of remember them selling newspapers. So what they did, that's the New York Daily News, as you can see. So what the newspapers would do is, you get 100,000 people coming into a stadium, and the newspaper knows that the people would love to buy the newspaper if it was kind of highlighted, like the headlines would be something about the witnesses at the convention. And this particular one talks about this, how 50,000 brave people they stayed in the stadium even though it was raining. So they had some pictures of some three sisters on the cover. You can see it right there. And so what that does is the newspaper boys walk around the convention. Hey, get your New York Daily News. Look at this, all about the witnesses staying in the rain and listening to the talks. So everyone's going to buy the paper. Now back then, the paper was only 7 cents, but they sold tons of those papers. I can remember buying some myself, and everyone bought it. Who wouldn't? I mean, you'd want to take it as a souvenir. You'd want to take it and show it to your friends and relatives that weren't witnesses, but it was a phony thing. When I bought the paper, and I remember, I wish I still had some, but when I bought the papers at those conventions, I really thought that was the top news in that particular paper. This was the New York Daily News, but that was just a special edition. You didn't know that. That was only for the conventioneers. The other headlines were probably about what was going on in the world. But that's how deceptive the Watchtower was. And they've always used conventions as a stepping point, as a little highlight of how great they are and how the witnesses are coming into the city, and they're spending money in the hotels, and they're eating food in restaurants, and they would really make a big deal out of that. And the papers would write that up, and the people would buy the papers, but they were phony baloney. And then also Barbara Anderson mentioned to us last night that they'd cut a deal with the Watchtower. They would actually cut a deal with the Watchtower for the amount of papers sold. Now, you say, well, how much could they make? Well, they'd share the profit of the papers. So by the time they paid the newspaper boy for going out and selling the paper, and by the time they would print it, the printing cost, they'd split it with the Watchtower. So the Watchtower, they're always there with their hands out. So just another phony baloney thing. But you would really believe that that's really the case. But they didn't embellish it. They would make the story bigger than life. You see those three sisters. What they did is they picked out three sisters, pretty sisters, and they took their picture, put it right on the front cover of the newspaper. It got everyone's attention. But my goodness gracious, well, what people do to get a buck, right? They'll do anything, and the Watchtower is constantly trying to do that. So I wanted to show that to you, and it was a good program last night. If you didn't see the program, get into the Six Screens, into our YouTube channel, and then watch the beginning of that, and then the end of it. Barbara Anderson, well, she kind of spilled the beans a little bit. Sometimes, Barbara, sometimes she really, really is against the Watchtower and really has a lot to say in a critical, cynical way. And then other times she kind of panders up to them. But last night, at the end of the program, at least she talked somewhat a lot about Russell, and she called him a liar. And he is a liar. So I kind of commended her for that. But Barbara's working on a book all about Russell. And I say, Barbara, well, get it out. Barbara's getting up in age, and she has so much information on Pastor Russell. She actually showed a book that the Russell family, some of the heirs of the family, gave to her, and she showed it last night. And so she does know quite a bit about Russell, and she studied a lot, but she's got to get it out. So when she first contacted me about 4 years ago and wanted to do some programming on the Six Screens, she wanted to really put her footprints here because she was thinking as she's getting older, she might not be able to finish the book. So she's been, if you catch her once in a while in the program, she'll say some things that we haven't really heard before. And it was kind of fascinating. So it was a good program. Get into the Six Screens YouTube channel and listen to it. I think you'll find it interesting. Well, let's see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. And there's always something going on. After doing this program for 20 years, I have to tell you, there's never been a dull Saturday night. We've always found something that is going on. And, we know right now that the Watchtower is in free fall. They are hemorrhaging members of their organization. People are leaving. Many, many people are leaving. Elders are leaving. And they're trying to do everything they can to soften the rules, to get more people to come in. They're trying to attract new recruits, and they're having a difficult time doing it. There's more people going out the back door than coming in the front door. So there was a headline that I came across that really caught my attention. And the headline was from the New York Times. And the headline had to deal with how these end time prophecies are scaring a lot of people. And they're wondering how they can attract people, that is the churches, and that seems to be doing it. A lot of people are kind of wondering what's going on in the world, so they're showing up. In this article I read in the New York Times, and it was saying how a lot of young people are now starting to go to church, and they're glad that they are learning about God. Now that's kind of a twist. How you would think today, well, are there really that many people that want to go to church today and learn about God? But according to this headline that I read in the New York Times, that seemed to be the case. As a matter of fact, it was on December 4th this article was written. But anyways, what part of the article said, across the United States, Orthodox church pews are overflowing with energetic newcomers drawn by what they describe as a more demanding and difficult practice of Christianity. So, in other words, the demanding party, I'm sure the end time prophecies and difficult times to figure this all out. So it's attracting new Christians and new people to want to become Christians. So when I first read this article in the New York Times, what got me thinking was the fact that what's the Watchtower thinking about this? How are they going to be able to handle this? I mean, they're losing people, as we just said, left and right. So how are they going to be able to handle the fact that the churches are gaining and they're losing? I'm wondering how they're going to spin this. What are they going to do? How are they going to? I mean, they see all of their people leaving. All the PMOs. In fact, we suggest here on the Six Screens there could be upwards of 4,000 PMOs. So I'm not 4,000, 4 million. So you have all these people leaving the Watchtower, all these people that no longer believe in it. In the Watchtower governing body, they know who the PMOs are. So they got to really, when they see a headline in the New York Times saying that the churches are filling up, that they got to be a little bit jealous over that. So that's why they've been lessening the rules. That's why they've been coming out with all this new light. The brothers can wear beards, the women can wear now slacks and pantsuits. So, they have to do that to be able to attract new people. Other than that, they'd really be up the creek without a paddle. So I want to share that with you. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, I was glad to hear that people want to come to God. That made me happy. And I don't know if it's just because of Christmas time or what, but people should turn to God. And we don't talk about the scriptures or get into it on a Saturday night, but my whole feelings are that your life could be so enhanced. And I'm a Christian man, and I went to Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall meetings because I wanted to be spiritually edified. I thought I was. I thought I was being taught the truth, as all of you folks did. It really wasn't, as we now know. But I was interested in learning about why we are here, where we are going, what does God have in store for us all. And I'm sure all of you guys, not all of you, but how did you go to the Kingdom Halls uh, to socialize? Did you go to learn the Bible? I mean, I have to say, really, that the Jehovah's Witnesses, I did learn the Bible books. I learned a bunch of scriptures. I will say that. At least they play a good game. They look good, right? Look the Bible scriptures up. And so you get kind of used to the Bible. So that's a good thing. But, I was very disappointed when I had to leave the Watchtower because I saw they were teaching false prophecies. Their doctrine was all mixed up. The pedophilia problems, joining the United Nations, getting involved with the spiritist Johannes Grieber, all of this stuff. It was very disappointing to hear all of that and to say, geez, I can't. Well, why would you want to continue on knowing something's wrong? If you were in a job, suppose you took a job and you found out these people were connected with the mafia. These people are nothing more than criminals. Would you want to stay in that job? No, you'd want to leave. And that's exactly how I felt when I was in the Watchtower. When I started finding all of these problems out that they were involved with, all of these things that, we never realized they were involved with, they were. And it really rocked my boat, so to speak. And at first, you don't want to hear it. Well, why would you want to hear it? I mean, this is what this is what you rest your whole life on. You raise your children. You got married to to a witness person. You put your whole life around the Watchtower, and then you learn that they're nothing more than scandalous and deceitful. That's not a pleasant feeling, friends. But I'll tell you, a lot of people are experiencing that right now. And that November, that November article in the Watchtower Study Edition, oh, that took the cake. That made a lot of people mad. And that was the issue that said that, Armageddon, the new system, more than likely is not going to come in, for the older ones, they were saying, in your lifetime. So you have all of these people that hung on for years. I mean, some of them 50, 60, 70, 80 years even, hung on to the Watchtower teachings, thought they were the truth, and they were looking so forward to going into the new system, never having to die. And then all of a sudden, the Watchtower comes out and says, well, it might not come in your lifetime. That is going to be, friends, that could be some of the worst news you ever heard in your life. That could really affect you psychologically. You could land up in a mental ward for that. Seriously, in some type of a rubber room bouncing around the walls to see this all went up in smoke. And that's what got me thinking. And I want to thank the people that gave me some information about a neurologist. And I'm not going to mention any names here at all, but I brought it up last night. And I found this really, really of interest, and I want to share this with you. So the information came into the 6 screens, There was a person who went to a neurologist. Now, we all know what a neurologist is, right? A neurologist, well, if you have Alzheimer's disease, for example, you would go to a neurologist. If you had a stroke, you would go to a neurologist. If you had twitches or nerve problems, sometimes neurologists could help you with that. So neurologists kind of deal with your brain. They have an idea of what's going on in your brain. And it's not like a psychiatrist. They're different, but they both kind of, I'm sure many of them share notes. Let's put it that way. So, anyways, I want you to listen closely now. This person gave me the information saying that the neurologist that they went to had something to say about Jehovah's Witnesses. And she mentioned to him that she was a Jehovah's Witness. And he says, "Are you serious? You were one of Jehovah's Witnesses? Oh, my goodness." He says, "That's a dangerous cult." She says, "I know." She says, I've had enough of it and I can't take it anymore." He says, "Well, why didn't you tell me this before? You've been coming here for years. And I'm glad you're out of it." But he says, he took a whole hour, she said, took a whole hour and explained all about cults and what they do to your mind. Now, I didn't realize that neurologists would get into this, but they do because, well, let me put it this way to you. Listen to this. He was saying, the neurologist was saying that if you've been in a cult like the Watchtower, it takes 7 to 30 years to rewire your brain. Yeah, your brain has been tampered with by the Watchtower. And he said the actual brain is an organ. Now, we all know that. And the brain is subject to brainwashing techniques, such as we were all involved with when we were in the Watchtower. He says the brain actually changes organically. Oh, that's scary, right? The brain changes organically? Yes. Well, what does that mean, organically? Well, inherently within. It kind of does it on its own. So as you have the Watchtower brainwashing you, using their mind control techniques, whatever they would be, on you, your brain actually rewires itself and the brain actually changes organically. Now, I'm not saying the brain swells up or develops new cells or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that your brain gets so overworked by the high control techniques, mind control techniques the Watchtower uses, that your brain isn't the same anymore. It'll take years. The neurologist said it would take years of hard work to get this out of your system. Now, I still at this point have some residual thoughts about the Watchtower in my head. And I believe all of you listening to this program today, you do as well. You have residual thoughts that have been put in your head when the Watchtower rented space in our mind, in our brain. And so I know this is true, what this man is saying, what the neurologist is saying. I believe this. I believe you guys believe it too. And the reason why I believe it is every week people come into our program here at the Six Screens. We've been doing it many years. And I've heard so many stories of people having such a hard time. They're going to therapy. For years, they've been going to therapy. They've read all the books on the cults. They've done everything they possibly could do and can do to get to start deprogramming themselves from the Watchtower teachings. So, there's so many things that are in our head from Watchtower. And I'm thinking sometimes we have to do just the opposite of what the Watchtower taught us. For example, it's Christmas season, right? And I know a lot out there that ex-witnesses, at least, they recognize it's Christmas. I mean, how could you not? But you don't have that feeling that other people have. You watch these Hallmark movies, you see people dancing and singing and Christmas carols and lights and all kinds of things going on out there, and you say, why don't I have that spirit? Why don't I have that deep down feeling for Christmas, that Currier Ives good old feeling? Well, it's because the Watchtower. It's because the Watchtower put all this garbage in our head about Christmas. It's pagan. You don't celebrate Christmas. Satan uses Christmas as a way to, get people away from the real truth of the Bible. So, all of this stuff they put in over many years of being in the Watchtower. It's there. It's there. Thanksgiving is another thing. All of the holidays, and even little things are still in our head. How about an R-rated movie? I mean, I don't even like movies anymore. I watched a couple on Netflix this week, and I had to shut them off. I couldn't stand all the foul language. I'm not being an old dinosaur here when I tell you, but even Susan, he said, "That's it. I don't want to watch this." That was The Wolf of Wall Street. Did you ever see that movie? I'm not recommending it, believe me. But what I'm saying here is R-rated movies. As a witness, if you were caught in a movie line, if you were going to the theater, you say, "Geez, you take your wife out. I want to go to the movies." So you were embarrassed if it was an R-rated movie. I mean, first of all, I didn't go to any, but I did talk to some witnesses that did. They kind of had to disguise themselves. Put their little hoodie on, put a hat on, put something on, so no one would recognize them because they might squeal on them. So witnesses really had a hard time with R-rated movies, and I think you probably felt the same way. And you could actually be reprimanded. You could be called even into the back room. Was that you, Brother Farron, at that R-rated movie? What are you going to say? I mean, you're caught red-handed, and you could. I don't know if you could be disfellowshipped for that. Probably if you went to an X-rated movie, it could be. But I don't know about an R-rated. But you did have something to say about it. They would have something to say about it. But by coming on the six screens, and it's very important that we can talk about this together. This is like a community. Some of my YouTube videos, they're just videos. For example, one we just did on Russell and Grieber, they're just videos. So you get an audience. That's one thing. But here at JW World News and our programming on Sundays and Saturdays, we have a community. We have people that come in, they listen to our programming, and it's like therapy for them. Many have said the six screens is like a giant therapy session. And it's very important to get things out in the open. And I'm glad the person who gave me the information about the neurologist at least talked to her neurologist about it. And when he asked her, "Why didn't you tell me before?" She said, "Well, I kind of was reserved. I didn't want you to know it." Well, let's let people know. I tell as many people as possible that I come in contact. I tell them at the grocery store. I tell people I do business with. I tell everybody, people I buy products from. I tell everyone the Jehovah's Witness is a cult. And, it fascinates them. It really does. Believe me, they stop and listen. They say, "What?" But some people already know it. They say, "Yeah, no, I know it. My sister was one and she was in a cult." So, what do we have to do to be deprogrammed? Well, where would you start to deprogram yourself? Well, my wife Susan last night, she mentioned that you got to start somewhere. So she says, "Well, why don't you start by getting in your car and driving around looking at Christmas lights?" Now that sounds like a pretty simple task, right? Hey, who doesn't like lights? But I'll tell you what, there are some Jehovah's Witnesses that would not tolerate this season. The lights on the houses and the buildings, that just was too much for them to take. It was too satanic. It was too pagan. They couldn't get themselves involved in doing it. The same thing on the 4th of July parade. You could be reprimanded as a witness for going to a 4th of July parade. In fact, some witnesses were so sensitive about the 4th of July that they wouldn't even go and watch fireworks. It bothered them. It bothered their conscience. So we were toxically under the influence of a deadly virus. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah, we were under the influence of a deadly virus, and that's what I like to do. It's like a computer. You use the word virus if it gets attacked and nothing can work anymore. Well, it's the same thing with the Watchtower giving us that deadly virus. Many minds and brains have been messed up because of the Watchtower. It can be deadly. It can be deadly. You people listening in, you might know people that have died because of the Watchtower. We talked about it at the outset of this program. We talked about the family that had all those suicides, right? So this organization can be deadly. So it's a deadly virus that the Watchtowers put into our brains. I'm wondering, is it a process? Well, according to neurologists, it's a real process, and everybody knows it. I've been out. Satan kicked me out of his organization back in 2005, as I've always said. So I've been out. What's 20 years, right? 20 years. So what you got here is there's still some residual Watchtower teachings in my head. Can I think of any offhand? Well, I think I'm a little overly conscience. My conscience is troubled at times for silly little things. You certainly want to make sure that you're driving safe. You want to make sure that no one's going to get hurt because you could be guilty. And another thing too that I mentioned this many times before, but I mention again because some of you people probably suffer from the same thing. Some of the residual effects that's still in your head from the Watchtower is I had to sleep with a light on. I know I mentioned last night, but if you didn't hear it, I had to sleep with a light on, even as a 40, 50, 60-year-old man, really, because I was so afraid that, the demons were going to pop out of the wall at you. I mean, that's what the Watchtower did to us all, scared the living daylights out of us, right, with their demon teaching. So the interesting thing is, now I like being in the dark. I don't even like having the light on any longer. So these are residual things. You'll probably experience the same thing. And even sometimes when you see some of the publications with the pictures of Armageddon, it kind of brings back memories. So all this stuff is locked inside your head. So you say, well, how do I get rid of this? How do I really go about getting all of this deprogramming done so I can be a normal person again? Well, I wish there was a quick answer. I wish there was a magic bullet because some of you guys really, I come out pretty much unscathed, but many people don't come out. They are psychologically traumatized by this religion. And so I wanted to bring this up today and some of the things that can help you to deprogram, but you got to start somewhere. It's like climbing Mount Everest. You can't do it in one day. So you got to take a few steps, go a little higher till you reach the top. So that's the encouragement I'm going to give you. And by listening in to a program like this too can also be helpful because, the old saying, misery loves company. Well, in some respects it does because you're talking to people that have experienced the same thing. And when you can do that, magical things happen. And I saw that happen this summer up here in Boston at our ex-witness convention. Something magical happened. Something really enlightening and encouraging happened when we had the convention. We had 350 opposers, criticizers, apostates of the Watchtower. And we all met in one venue back in August at the Hilton Hotel right here in Massachusetts. And something really happened that everyone noticed. We were all on the same page. We all shared the same experiences. Everyone had the same story to tell. There's something about that. Well, when you can be with people of like mind, when you can be with people who have experienced the same things in life that you have, that can be so encouraging. It can be comforting. It can make you feel comfort because going out and just saying to people, I was Jehovah's Witness and I suffer from it today. If they never were a witness, if they never were a witness, they'll never get it. They'll never understand that. So by being with people of like mind, gee, that happened to you. That happened to me too. And let me tell you my story. I heard stories at that convention. I couldn't even believe it. And then my wife and I, prior to the convention, because we were like running the convention, we were trying to put it together. And we had many, many witnesses, ex-witnesses, call us up who would like to give a talk at the convention we had. And Susan and I would listen to some of these people. Some of them we wouldn't even want. The stories were so horrific that we thought it might be best not to have them come up and give their talk. But all of the things that we've heard, many of these things have traumatized the Jehovah's Witnesses. So work on deprogramming. Start small. Start going out looking at Christmas lights. Maybe get a little Christmas tree. Trying to get over that hump. And I'm doing it now. It's been about 11 years that I had the opportunity since 2005 to celebrate Christmas then, but I never did. And then when I married Susan back in 2014, we got a little Christmas tree, but I don't even think we have it today. We just couldn't get into it. We could not get into it. But now we put some lights on our house for the first time, and that's very comforting. And I look at it, I said, wow, that looks good. I'm thinking of putting some more lights out there now because there's relief. There's relief knowing that you overcome something. It's a challenge, but there'll be relief when you overcome it. If anyone wants to speak up, you're on with us. Go ahead and hit star. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Well, how exactly does the watchtower make you afraid of the dark? That's a good one.
Well, I know it would come from a guy like you, Mike, but I mean, the demons. I mean, you were a witness. Did you feel there were demons in there?
Well, no, I mean, you said it, right? I'm serious. Like you said, they made you afraid of the dark.
Well, they
I thought it was funny.
Well, it sounds funny, but there's people listening in that share the same experience. Did you think there were demons when you were a witness? I mean, did you believe in demons or what?
Well, yeah, there's demons. Well, Ricky, the Bible says there's demons. So, do you believe in demons, Rick?
Of course, I do. There's still, but the Watchtower has this obsession, and it's used as a tool to keep you on the straight and narrow. They overdo it with demons. They got demons popping out of walls,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I never had a problem with the dark, but maybe that's me. But you said it could take 30 years to get back to normal after you left the Watchtower. Is that correct?
The neurologist was saying.
So did they kick you out in 2005?
Yeah, 2005. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I hope you make it, Rick. In 10 more years, that means in 10 more years, Rick, you're going to be back to normal. Get your brain totally back.
Well, I feel pretty much back to normal. I feel pretty much back to normal now. I feel.
Okay, good. Well, how long did it take you then to get back to normal?
Well, I'll tell you what. There's still some residual thoughts there. I think we all have an overworked conscience. I really do. I don't know if your conscience has ever been bothered. You don't seem to be.
I think that you should have a conscience, Rick. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah, well, I mean, you should have a conscience, but sometimes I think the Watchtower had us overwork it. I think that we were concerned about things we never should have been concerned about. Really, they overworked it, and that can, in fact, just to give you an idea, okay? My son-in-law was a pioneer, and so one day an elder walked out into the parking lot and saw his car. And he says, brother, he says, you're out pioneering, but your tires are bald. He says, you could be held blood guilty if you're driving down the if you're driving down the road and you hit another car and you kill somebody. Jehovah would look unfavorably upon you. You should get some new tires. So I mean, but the brother, my son-in-law, was bothered by that. But plenty of people drive around with bald tires. I mean, I'm not sanctioning it. But, for someone to come out and tell you that, you could be blood guilty, I would rather have a person say, you get in an accident, get hurt or kill somebody, but you don't want to come out and say that you're going to be held responsible. I mean, this is the type of stuff Watchtower did to people,
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I'm not going to die. I mean, this worst situation. Well, I guess, Rick, I have to say this. I think there's worse situations than height you could be raised in. I mean, if you're a child, there's a lot of people that are raised up in bad situations. It'd be a lot worse than being raised a witness, in
Oh,
my
yeah.
opinion.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Mike. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Hi, Rick here. I've got one for you. The way that I think the massive impact on most witnesses, I would say, is the fear-based mindset that we can't seem to shift. And you think of examples like when 9/11 happened, everyone running into the headquarters or trying to get into the headquarters because they thought, running back to the religion. When COVID happened, people coming back to the organization. Does this mean it's the triggering Armageddon? Or you hear of a war or something happening. Immediately something's going to happen. It's that constant fear. And that is one huge one for me because, I've shaken it off now. And I think one of the things I did was keep reminding myself of the reality of, like when if you watch the news every day and you watch all the news every day, like 24/7, now we have the news, you're just going to feel bad all the time. You're just going to constantly feel negative because it's geared to tell you all of the things that happen in sensational. If it's just everything's okay, the world is great, and that we rescued a cat from a tree, no one's going to watch the news. It's just going to be feel-good factor. But they keep you gripped in fear. And that is Watchtowers. That's their currency. That's their currency, Rick? And so that is the biggest one, because that's why people can't feel relaxed to build their future. We didn't build a future. We just lived really, really short term, like temporary residence in tents, And that for me is a massive mind control that we have to. I personally did a lot of work on myself to shift out of that mindset so I can look brightly and positively to the future, whether it be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or 5 minutes. But I'm going to be positive for the future, and that takes a lot of work on us. But that's a mind control thing there for sure. For me, anyway, that was one of the big ones that we all continually had to work on and still have to work on when we leave. Because that can still stay in our system for a long time,
Well,
Yeah.
that's a good. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Maverick, because that makes sense. And there's a lot of people, I'm sure, listening to the program, and even myself a little bit. You see something in the news, you hear about an earthquake. Oh my goodness, the world ending. Even on the news this morning, I'm watching on the news this morning the poor people over in Australia, the Jewish people that were killed, and right here at Brown University in Rhode Island, also yesterday, some people were killed. A Jewish anti-Semitism. And what I'm thinking here is, I started thinking too, boy, is this showing we're at the end? That's kind of Watchtower thinking too, I guess. And it's Christian thinking too as well. But the Watchtower really embedded that in our minds big time. Thank you, Maverick. Thank you. Yeah, how about you guys out there? Is there any secret you can share with us? Do you have a magic bullet to deep croak? Go ahead.
Rick?
Yeah, yes.
Hi, thank you. I just know what helped me because my whole world was the Watchtower. My association was the Watchtower. And for me, I took a class. I just went to my local community college and picked a class that's something I was interested in. And through the safety of being a member of the class, I got to meet real people. And it really did help me a lot. As far as the governing body saying that, accusing us of being possibly blood guilty, look at the literal and metaphorical blood on their own hands. And as far as so many people seeing Jehovah's Witnesses as so nice and so spiritual and friendly, think of how many serial killers and pedophiles were said by their neighbors when they were caught, oh, they were such good neighbors. They were so nice. They'd give you the shirt off their back. They'd help you with anything. Thank you, Rick.
Well, you got me laughing here, Anne Marie, because, you see these mass murderers and bad criminal people, and then their mother comes on TV. Well, he was a good boy. Boy.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking, Rick, I don't know. Do you remember? I can remember as a small child, there was a track. I don't know if it was a Kingdom News, but remember there was one that said Armageddon on it, and it showed like a thunder cloud. It showed like a bolt of lightning, real dark clouds. And I remember that, seeing that as a child. But when I guess I would see if we were ever going to get a thunderstorm, it was real. If it got real dark, kind of made me wonder. Well, is this Armageddon? I'm small.
Yeah.
But I can vividly remember that. It was real dark. I think it came out in the mid '80s, but I can remember seeing it in the house, and it said Armageddon.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. I wish I had a picture of to show the audience. No, some of those pictures, they really would frighten you. They really would. And I remember one picture they had too, if everyone can remember this. It was like a picture of supposedly Satan and how he was hovering over the earth, and he had a big dark black hoodie on, and he had his hand stretched out as he was controlling the world, so to speak. See, it's that type of imagery that scares people. It frightens people. But the Watchtower does it deliberately. These guys are good at mind control. They're good at putting garbage in your head and renting space, as they say, in your head as well. But you can shake it loose. It takes time. It takes time. There are people who have been more traumatized than I was. I've talked to people coming on here that you just can't even handle living anymore because of what the Watchtower did to them. So, there's people who really have been hurt by it. It all depends to what type of a family you grew up in. See, my father was never a Jehovah's Witness. My mother was. But I'll tell you what, if your father was a witness and your mother was a staunch pioneer, it could create monumental issues, really. So some of the people that calls into our program, that's the ones that had the most trouble. The kids were expected to do so much. I could do things as a kid. My father let me play Little League baseball. I played football in high school. I played baseball. I went to the school dances. I was the MC at some of these talent shows we had at school. I could do things. But, if you had a mother and father that were both staunch, loyal witnesses, you'd be in trouble. You'd be in big time trouble. Yeah, it's amazing to me. It's what really amazes me is the obsession. And, we've been doing this now 20 years. And I even have to ask myself sometimes, am I going over the top? What's going on with this? I mean, I'm not monetized here. I don't make any money doing this program. It doesn't, as a matter of fact, it costs me close to $400 a month just to do the programming. But what's the obsession? I'm saying, what is it? And I wake up and I say that sometimes. And is it to really help people? I think that's the reason right there. If you have a feeling for people, I don't want people to get locked into this organization like I was. I don't want to see young people give all their years to an organization that's going to give them nothing. And so that's, yes.
Excuse me for interrupting, please. I'm so sorry. But I love what you just said. The reason why you do what you do is because you have such a huge heart for helping people, and especially the young people who have maybe two parents that believe in the Watchtower, because the poor young person who is forced to grow up under the mind control cult of this horrible tyrannical cult and controlling everything they do, they are trapped. They're confused, they're scared, they're lost, and they are literally trapped mentally and emotionally, and they are so traumatized. And as if life growing up in this world, growing up is hard enough. Going through puberty, what am I going to do when I'm growing up? Where am I going? What does my life mean? But in the Watchtower, a young person is so trapped. And I've seen it. I told you about that poor young 17-year-old Jehovah's Witness boy that came to my door. And I could just tell the misery in that poor boy's face as he went through his presentation. And I noted that out of my eyesight on the first couple stairs of my apartment, his father was there glaring at him. And then later I saw him up the street, on the street, just chastising that poor boy, and the poor boy was just hanging his head, his hands in his pocket, shuffling a foot. And I just wanted to run out there and scream at that horrible man who was just controlling his son. Every word, every hair had to be in place. This is what these poor young people go through. So your platform, my dear brother Rick, with you and your beautiful wife Susan every single week so faithfully, they need a place to go. My husband reminds me all the time. He said Rick has to keep doing what he's doing because they need somewhere to go. Thank you, Rick.
Well, we always appreciate your good comments there, Anne-Marie. And another story too that I wanted to just talk about a little bit here tonight as well is what came across the internet the other day, got my attention, and it happened up in the state of Maine. And I'll read you the narrative here from the newspaper. Maine's High Court is reviewing a custody order barring a mother from church and Bible teachings based on alleged psychological harm. That got my attention because I thought it was a Jehovah's Witness woman. I had to read more, but it wasn't. But it said the ruling could set a national precedent or parental religious rights and how courts weigh best interest claims for the children and for the all parties concerned. So that got my attention, and I really liked it because I'm saying, you know something, the Jehovah's Witness organization, and we had many people come and talk about it. They had a publication that was printed in 1987. And the publication, Watchtower publication, was preparing for child custody. And this was a booklet that would be given to a couple, well, not a couple, but the witness person who is getting a divorce from the person who doesn't want to be a witness anymore. They're just getting a divorce, and the other party wants the children, but of course the witness person wants to keep the children. So they have this booklet, Preparing for Child Custody, and what to say in the booklet. So I'm thumbing through the booklet, and something I came across that really I had to go back and read it again because I'm having a hard time putting it together in my head. It says that in the book, the parents are coached to emphasize the positive aspects of Armageddon. I mean, is there any positive aspects to Armageddon? I don't think of any. I think it's very harmful to keep teaching about Armageddon's going to come. All those pictures they used to show in the different publications would scare you to death. So I got thinking, there's nothing positive. Well, what are they going to tell a judge? Because the judges they don't realize how the Watchtower is and how they could be very harmful. If you have a parent teaching Watchtower doctrine to a child, it could be very harmful to that child's psychology. It could be very harmful to his health because, I mean, look at the blood doctrine. That child could die if he took the blood doctrine serious. You could also have this child have a fearful look at the world they're moving forward in, with Armageddon, for example. But they tried to have the parents give a positive view of Armageddon. And then what was suggested, from what I gather here, is that, Armageddon is going to come, but it's positive in the fact that God's going to cleanse the earth. And only, of course, people who want to follow God will live. Of course, they don't say only Jehovah's Witnesses will live. They say people who want to follow God. But anyways, let's go into this. I got some pictures I want to show you. I want to show you some pictures, and I want you to tell me in these pictures if you see anything positive about Armageddon, because I got news for you. There's nothing in these pictures. Let me just get to them here. Just take me a second to get them up. Let me do that right now. Let me show you this. Let me show you this picture right here. Remember that picture? Look at that picture. That picture would scare that picture would scare Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, really, it's you got all this fiery. You got Armageddon in the background. You got these poor women running away from Armageddon. Is there anything positive about that picture? You guys can all relate to that picture, can't you? So I see nothing positive, but I want to show you another one. You know who this guy is, right? Hold on. Who's that guy? Well, that's Tony Morris. Oh, that's Tony. And that's, well, of course, he's not a governing body member anymore. But do you remember that video? I'm not going to play the video, but it's just, you can see that it was taken from a video. And Tony Morris, governing body member of Jehovah's Witness, he took out a match and he lit the match. And then he blew on the match. And he says, no, he saw the smoke come up from the match. He says, that's what happens to apostates. That's what happens to people when they turn their back on Jehovah. Now, let me tell you something. Suppose that you're a young child and your daddy doesn't want to be a witness anymore, and your mommy still wants to be a witness, and you go to court, and, it's possible that your mommy's going to get you, and you're thinking of all of this, but what's even coming up in your mind here now is daddy's a bad guy. Daddy's going to go up and smoke. Daddy's going to die at Armageddon. Please, daddy, become a witness again. Do you see the strain that's being put on these young kids? When you do stuff like this, the Watchtower is acting in a very disingenuous way. They claim to be the only Christian organization on the planet, and they would actually let children be ripped apart and form sides with one parent over the other. That happens. Not just once, not just twice. It happens all the time in Jehovah's Witness religion. Imagine the pressure on the poor little kids. Really think about it. So, this Watchtower, really, they put out a good claim. Well, we're the only Christians on the planet. We're the only loving organization there is. That is a crock of baloney. So what do you guys think? I mean, is the Watchtower as damaging as we say it is here on the Six Screens? Would you agree with me on that? Go ahead, hit *6. Let me know. I mean, am I looking through rose-colored glasses here? Am I just trying to make this stuff all up? No.
I think there's a reason that children in the other beliefs are put in a Sunday school or Sabbath school to do little crafts and have crayons with cartoon pictures of prophets and things that they do, or make a little menorah that's a pretend one out of paper. There's reasons that these other beliefs have children's activities. Psychological reasons, because those children are not up to adult level. Even the most gifted child, as I was put in, like we all were as witness kids, the same room with the parent to hear these complex, fear-driven discourses. And they affect you for the rest of your days, even if you get therapy.
Well, you're right, Pixie. You're right. So, I know you're working on deprogramming. You talked about it last night. There's still things that come up in your daily routines that flash back to the Watchtower. But I know you're working on it, and you're coming on here all the time, and you're working with others as well on here, and we all work together trying to flush some of this stuff out of our heads. Well, thank you, Pixie. Thank you. Yeah.
I want us all to know that we are free. We have to pay our taxes and live good citizen lives. We're not going to be swinging from the chandelier and going crazy if we leave the Watchtower. They put that in our head. That's not true. They put things in our head like they used to have this death and sleep comparison years ago. That messed people up. Sleep is sleep. And the other thing they do now, they've got pictures of military men coming for the witnesses in attics and basements. This is not in the Bible. The Bible says you're protected by God and his angels. If you want to go the Christian route on a Sunday, the Bible has all kinds of protections for you. So that's my homily for today.
Well, I'll take that. I'll take that. And I'm glad you brought the Bible into your little narrative there, because, the Bible doesn't talk about you being, hunted down by people. It gives you hope. It gives you hope. The Watchtower is going to scare you to death about everything. Thank you, Pixie. Well, we're going to end the program there, but don't leave us now. One more person want to speak up. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Rick. Yeah, I just as you were talking, I just thought to myself, I was going to put in ChatGPT, what do Jehovah's Witnesses fear? And the results are quite interesting. Can I read a couple of them for you?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Just quickly. Right. So the number one fear that Jehovah's Witnesses have is, you guessed it, Armageddon. Then number 2, pleasing Jehovah. 3, being disfellowship. 4, questioning doctrines. 5, apostates. 6, the outside world, the world. 7, higher education. Number 8, political involvement. Number 9, blood transfusion. Number 10, bad association. Number 11, immorality. Number 12, Satan and the demons, and everything to do with movies, books, and everything to do with demons. Number 13, doing enough for Jehovah. Number 14, losing family if you're being shunned. And number 15, death without resurrection. I mean, that is quite a substantial list of fears, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. In fact,
I'll send it to you in the email. You might do a whole show on this later.
well, thank you. It got my attention because many of the things you mentioned on there, people brought up on the 6 screens. On number 15, death with no resurrection. Numerous people have called in here in the last 20 years and said that was the biggest fear of dying, and that's it. It's over, you know? Thank you, Maverick. Thank you very much. All right.
Rick?
Yes, Anne-Marie.
I'm sorry, just one last comment on what Pixie was saying about all of the recent videos in the last few years of hiding in bungalows and attics and basements, and, you know, the SWAT coming after them, heavily armed with guns and being so scared. They never used to push that. Watchtower always pushed us that we would be protected no matter what. You 2 Chronicles 20:17. Stand still and see the salvation of Jehovah. They never use those horrible fear stories like they've been doing.
Well, there you go. No, that's exactly right. They're using it, and they're using it to scare you to death, to stay in the watchtower because they're going to protect you. Well, that kind of brings us to the end of the program. I want to apologize. We had some issues with Anne-Marie's program earlier with the sound, but it wasn't on our end. We did everything. So if you were listening in and you couldn't hear the sound right, we had some issues. I believe it was with StreamYard. So, but it's all straightened out now, so we can go forward with our programs. Now, we have a program coming up here. Now, don't head for the mountains. It's called The Christian Court. It's fascinating. It's really, really fascinating. Now, Christians have peculiar questions that they would love to have answered. And sometimes there's a multitude of answers, unlike the Watchtower. The Watchtower tells you straight on, no, this is what you do, this is how you do it, and we said it, so you do it. But Christians, well, today they're going to say, is it really proper to celebrate Christmas? Some Christians do have a hang up with it. And so we're going to discuss that subject today, as well as some other subjects as well. So by all means, stay with us and you'll enjoy the program. Stay on this channel, and we're going to the Christian Court coming up next, right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. Thank you.